All right, y'all, today we're gonna grill something I've never cooked on my channel before. And I don't know why, because it's one of the absolute best tasting pieces of meat you could ever eat. Let's go. All right, folks, there you have it. We're gonna be doing the picanha steak today. The picanha is also known as the top sirloin cap or the culotte steak, but most people call it the picanha, and it's known as the queen of steaks. Not because the king is the ribeye and it's less important than the king or the ribeye, because it's more refined probably than the ribeye. It's definitely a very elegant steak. It's very well known and very, very tender and juicy and very flavorful. Now, picanha actually comes from the Brazilian word picanha, which means their prod or their stick. It means a prod or stick, and usually where they prodded the cattle along is right about the area where the picanha steak comes from. I'll put a picture on the screen now of where the picanha steak comes from on a cow, back on the very rump of the cow, basically on top there, a perfect spot for them to prod with to get them to move. And that word is P-I-C-A-N-A, and the picanha steak is P-I-C-A-N-H-A. So very similar words. I think that's probably where the steak name came from. Now, this steak is absolutely beautiful. It is a Wagyu Picanha steak that came from Snake River Farms. So thank you, Snake River Farms, are sponsoring today's video. They sent me this steak. Perfect opportunity for you guys to see what these things look like. What I'm gonna do is trim this picanha up, gonna make steaks out of it, and we're gonna season it, and we're gonna dry brine it overnight and come back tomorrow and go ahead and grill our steaks then. But right now, here's the steak itself. Looks really, really good. I'm really pleased with this one. It's a very good looking picanha. Like I said, Snake River Farms sent this to me. There's the fat cap, which is what these things are known for. Now on the top side or the bottom side, however you want to look at it, I've got to remove a lot of this silver skin and fat off of this, but I'll leave this fat cap here. It's a very good looking Wagyu. Now these things are very lean. They're not real fatty steak at all. Wagyu will obviously have a little more than typical, but the intermuscular fat level is going to be a little bit less in a picanha that would be something else. It's not worked muscle, so it's going to be very tender and very more like filet mignon type. I kind of consider this a combination of a ribeye and a filet mignon. So let me get this top trimmed off and we'll see what it looks like underneath. So we can do here and get some of this fat cap trimmed off. Look, it just peels off. It's so soft. Wagyu would definitely be a more tender fat, obviously. So there's some silver skin I got to get into, and I'll get the rest of this fat cap off too, and I'll bring you back when we get ready to cut them into steaks. All right, guys, there we go. We got our nice picanha now trimmed up neatly. Looking very good. Got all the silver skin off the top of it. Now what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut this into steaks. And when you cut picanha into steaks, you've got to be certain to go with the grain, because then after you cook your steaks, the eater of the steak will then cut across the grain, which makes much, much better, more tender bites. So we definitely don't want to have them eating with the grain. So we're gonna cut these steaks with the grain. So I like to make about 1.5 inch steak, maybe 2 fingers, something like that, wide. Some of these will be really long. Of course, now the grain, as you can tell, hopefully you can see the grain's running this way. So it's running the length of the picanha. So however we turn it, we want to make sure we cut with it. So it's going to be there'll be some steaks much longer than others. The picanha is usually about 2.5, 3 pounds. This one's 4.5 pounds. It's a little bigger than usual, but we're going to go with it. Of course, we love it. We're tickled with that. No big deal. So I want to cut these in about 2 inches or 2 fingers, 1.5 inches wide, something like that. 2 fingers wide. So just about right there. There's one. Look at it. Look at the marbling on that, guys. Let me get here close so you can see the marbling there. Beautiful marbling in that Wagyu Picanha. We get some more steaks here. Maybe that was not quite as thick as I wanted, so we'll get a little thicker here. Look at that, guys. Absolutely beautiful steak. Got a good fat cap. Really pleased with that steak. There's 2. 3, 4. We'll cut this in half. It's just too big to be by itself. Okay, so there we go. Now what I'm going to do with each of these is I'm going to put some salt on them and then dry brine them overnight. Now because it's Wagyu, I'm not going to salt them real heavy. They don't have a lot of richness in them anyway, so I don't want to add a whole lot of salt and have that be a big factor. So I'll put some salt on it for sure to dry brine it overnight, and then we'll put a little more seasoning, some pepper and things like that on it tomorrow. Then we'll put them on our grill. So let's go ahead and get these salted up now. And I'm just using the shaker bottle. Actually, this was a pepper shaker that I finished. I put some salt in it. So I want to just season these Gosh, these look great, guys. I can't wait to see how these taste. It's a little triangle there. We'll definitely take that too. So, all right. So like I said, we're not going to do real heavy salt. We're going to use Morton's coarse kosher salt on this and not do a whole lot because it's already Wagyu and we don't want to have too much, too much salt on there. So we definitely want to put some, but not as much as we normally would. That's a big piece of meat. These are thick pieces of meat that can handle it. We just don't want to overdo it, that's for sure. The sides, then we'll get the fat cap as well. Get some salt on every bit of it. Now what I want you to do, guys, is I want you to make sure you pay attention. I'm going to show you the color of these now, and then I want you to see the color tomorrow when we get ready to grill them. I'm gonna tell you what, that salt's already going in some. Let's just give it a little cover for all of it one more time. Gosh, that salt's already just being absorbed in there. Because that Wagyu fat is already starting to melt just from the sun out here, starting to melt the fat a little bit. Let's just see the color of those. Take a look at that and see the color of all these steaks. And then tomorrow we'll look at it again and see the difference in how much more dark bright. Does that make sense? A very solid red. We'll show the color tomorrow too, but that way you can see it all right now too. So, all right guys, I'll bring you guys back when we bring them out of the fridge, get ready to throw them on the grill. See you then. All right y'all, so the steaks have been in the fridge overnight, dry brining with just salt on them. Now traditionally that's all you use is just salt. You can add pepper and garlic, things like that if you want to, no one's gonna judge you. But Brazilians traditionally use just salt, so that's what we're gonna do today. Now we're gonna use our Weber Kettle, we're gonna use the slow and sear, and we're using B&B charcoal. Now what I do, I use lump charcoal, but in an effort to keep from losing all those small pieces, I put a base layer of briquettes in my chimney and then put the lump charcoal on top of that. So when you see me pour it into the slow and sear, you'll see both kinds, and that's why. Now, once the charcoal gets ready, I'll bring our steaks out. We'll take a look at the color. We talked about that last night, how the dry brining will change the color of it. And once our charcoal is ready, we'll throw the steaks on. All right, folks, here are our picanha steaks after they dry brined overnight with some coarse kosher salt. Now, you notice how much deeper red. I kept saying brighter, darker yesterday, but I meant deeper red. It's a very beautiful red. Now, this Wagyu is actually starting to render already, being out here maybe a minute and a half in the sun. You can start to see it shine a little bit. But this is a beautiful picanha steak. Now, something I didn't mention, with picanha steak, you definitely want to eat the fat. This fat, not this, now, I did not trim any of this. I could have trimmed some of that down, of course. I didn't want to. I want to render all that fat into the fire and have that flame come back up and kiss the steaks really well, and the flavor from that dripping come back up too. But whenever you eat picanha, you definitely want to have some fat with every bite. Now you can trim this as you're eating if you want to, but make sure that you definitely have a piece of fat with every bite, because it makes all the difference in the world with your flavor. What really makes the Wagyu is you've got the intermuscular fat as well, so the whole bite's going to be fantastic, especially if you do it right. Now we're going to reverse sear these. Once our charcoal gets ready, we'll throw them on. All right, folks, our charcoal is now ready. It's pretty well ashed over. I'm gonna go ahead and pour it in. And like I said, you'll notice some of both briquette and lumps. And we'll get our grate in. Let it get heated up. About 2 minutes, we'll put our steaks on. All right, folks, let's get our steaks on. Now, first, we'll just go ahead and put them on the cool zone. Put them a little bit long ways, I guess, is what I'm going to do here. I am using the Typher Gold sink to gauge temperature. We'll, of course, check it as we go. I'll put the lid on these and let them go for a few minutes. Start temping them. Now, when they get to about 120 degrees, which is where I have the Typher set, I'll then start searing them off. It won't take long, guys. Wagyu cooks very quick, as you can imagine. When it gets to the 120 range, I'll start searing them off, and we'll get done really quick then. All right, see you in a minute. All right, folks, we hit 80 degrees. We're gonna go ahead and flip each one of the steaks. Now, I put the Typher thermometer in probably the thickest one, so I've got to really watch and make sure these others don't get overdone, which they won't. I'll be fine. But when you use the thickest steak, which you kind of have to do to put a spear in like that, the Typher Gold, then you got to make sure you kind of keep an eye on temperatures, because your thickest one will be the one that moves the slowest, of course. All right, now when we get to 120, we'll take each one and sear them off. All right, guys, something else I did was I turned these steaks a little bit to the fat faces the fire, the heat more so it slows down, because I was getting heat on each end where it's thinner, of course, cooking faster. So I turned the fat towards the heat to protect it a little bit, slow things down a little bit. We're about 110, 112 right now, so we'll just be a couple minutes before we start searing. All right, folks, now we got them seared off and completely done. We'll pull them off, put them on a cutting board, and let them rest. All right, so they're off now. Gonna rest for a few minutes. We'll come back and slice right into them. All right, guys, our picanha is finished. We've let it rest about 3 or 4 minutes maybe. We're gonna slice it open and see how we did. Now, remember, the whole point here is to make sure you eat a little bit of fat with every single bite. Do trim some if you need to. Let's cut it open and see how we did. Let's cut it right in half here. All right, here we go. Oh yeah, look at that. Looks really, really good, guys. I'm real pleased with that. My goodness, that's fantastic. All right, now let's cut us a bite off the end here. I left a little bit of fat on the end of that, which is what you want to do. See that fat there on the cap? With that slice of steak. Cheers, folks. Picanha off the Weber Kettle. I can't wait. Let's go. Here we go. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Incredible, guys. That is so tender and so flavorful. And all I did was use salt. Absolutely great. I loved it. This was from Snake River Farms, the Wagyu, of course. Definitely get yourself one of these. If you've never cooked a picanha, or even if you have, order one from Snake River Farms. Give them a try. This Wagyu is just absolutely to die for. Fantastic steak. There'll be a link down below to take you to their site, Snake River Farms site. Be sure and use that. Guys, I hope you got some value out of this. Please hit the like button and please subscribe to our channel. We would greatly appreciate that. Until next time, I'll meet you at the smoker.